Hello, I'm Rob Rebein, Interim Dean of the IU School of Liberal Arts, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this afternoon's presentation of the IU Bicentennial Medal to a School of Liberal Arts Professor Emeritus of Philosophy, Paul Nagy. I'll be serving as the MC of today's event, and I'm honored that we could join together today to celebrate Paul in this way. IUPUI didn't even exist when Professor Paul Nagy began teaching in Indianapolis for Indiana University in 1967. Paul was one of 3 philosophy professors charged with helping students learn about the nation's and the world's great thinkers. In fact, the first course on classical American philosophy was taught at the Indiana University Downtown Center by Professor Paul Nagy. With this beginning, a commitment to researching and teaching about the American experience was born. In 1975, under the leadership of Dean Joseph Taylor, the Center for American Thought and Culture was founded and soon became known as the Center for American Studies. In 1976, the Charles Sanders Peirce Editorial Project, a critical documentary edition of the work of the classical American philosopher, arrived at IUPUI and was temporarily housed within the center. In the 80s and 90s, the Center for American Studies served as a powerful incubator for a number of nationally recognized conferences, several journals, and the creation of both the Polis Center, including what would become the Spirit and Place Festival, and the Center for the Study of Religion and American Culture. Among his other achievements, Professor Nagy served as Senior Indiana University Professor and Deputy Director of the American Studies Center at Warsaw University from 1977 to 1979, and as the Otto Salgo Chair in American Studies at the University of Budapest from 1984 to 1986. To continue to celebrate and encourage interdisciplinary collaboration, Paul and Catherine Nagy created the Paul and Catherine Nagy Endowment for American Studies and the Paul and Catherine Nagy Chair in Classical American Philosophy, which connects the Department of Philosophy, the American Studies Program, and the Institute for American Thought. In addition, Paul and Catherine continue to give generously to areas of interest across the IUPUI campus. And now, allow me to introduce Dr. John Tilley, a longtime colleague in the School of Liberal Arts who served as the chair of the Department of Philosophy when I was starting out as a newbie chair in the Department of English. John, would you please share a few words about your time with Paul?
I want to focus on one thing, but before I get to it, let me just fill in a few more facts about Paul's career. As Rob said, he came here in 1967. One thing worth knowing is he made full professor of philosophy within 10 years. He was one of the earliest contributors to the American Studies program. He became a professor of American Studies in 1984. He then became an adjunct professor of philanthropic studies in 1991. And by the way, both in the American Studies and philanthropic studies, Paul was not one of those people who just said, oh yeah, you can list me as a, no, he developed courses, some of them that went on to be rather well known, really sort of famous ones. He was quite a contributor to those programs. In 1993, he became a member of the advisory board to the Peirce Edition project. Okay, now here's another tidbit many of you don't know, that from 1979 to 1984, Paul was the Associate Dean of Faculty, IUPUI Associate Dean of Faculties. Now the ranks have all changed in the titles. I believe that was equivalent to the position Kathy Johnson now holds. Paul held that for 6 years. Okay, but now the thing that interests me the most is this. Paul became chair of the department in 1971 and held it till 1977. Then he returned and became chair of our department in 1990 and held it until 2001. So he was the chair of our department for 17 years, and he began his time as chair as an assistant professor. Now, there's two things noteworthy about that. First of all, he did all that during a time when no one else wanted to be chair, so it was really quite a contribution. Now here's the other thing, and it's too bad Ursula and Nathan aren't here to chime in, but so many things stand out, but here's the thing that stands out so much. Both as a professional colleague and also as chair, it's Paul's collegiality that really stood out. Paul is a peacemaker, a diplomat, a person who is not prone to seeing the bad side of people, but seeing the good side of people, trying to find the grain of truth on everyone's side. And anyone will agree with me, during the time he was chair, it was a peaceful department. It was a department where people got along, where people could pursue their careers, without turbulence. And I remember many, many years ago, Ursula and I, when we were assistant professors, saying there will come a time when we reminisce about being assistant professors with Paul as a chair. He was a peacemaker, and it rubbed off on everyone. And we had then, and I think we still have, a reputation for being a department that's untroubled. And it was Paul who laid the foundations there. So I just want to say many thanks, Paul, and congratulations for everything. And many thanks also to you, Catherine. Great to see you. And I better quit now because I've burned up my 4 minutes. I'll turn it back over to you, Rob.
Thanks, John. Now let me introduce the current chair of philosophy, Dr. Tim Lyons. Tim, would you share a few words with us about our honored guest?
Yes. I would just follow up, first of all, just with congratulations, Paul. This was wonderful. I remember when I came in 2003 or 2002, 2003, that year, we met in the mailroom where Terry Mills worked, as you might recall, and we had a conversation about, and I never say his name right, but I believe it's Michael Polanyi. You know how to say it. And we talked about him, and that was my first time meeting you. And then we've had lunch since then. But what is clear is that you were instrumental in creating and developing this department. And this department is still doing outstanding work. I mean, you laid the foundation for what came of the department. And so I hadn't realized that you had been chair just the year before I came. When I came, Mike Burke was chair. But it really, I mean, with Mike and then with John, we've just carried through as a department of colleagues and of people who have each other's back and are really productive too. Even our emeritus faculty, like Mike Burke and John and Lori Lampert, they're still publishing in to an incredible degree. And our current faculty that we have, in keeping the tradition that you got rolling with this, I don't know, good fortune, I suppose, with regard to hiring. We had Chad Carmichael. He publishes in Mind, PPR, these kinds of incredible venues for metaphysics, which is his primary area of work. And then we've got, on the other side, we've got, for instance, Samuel Kahn, and he's published just gobs, and he's a Kantian, and he's done just tons of work. And of course, a lot of the other faculty, Kay Staval, Andre Detienne. We have a whole lot of faculty who are really outstanding and getting a lot of attention with their work. And so I just want to express appreciation for the fact that you kind of laid the foundation for this, for what we've now got, which is really a fantastic group and what we've had ever since I've been here. And, you know, to see people retire, it's always been so hard because we're such a tight-knit group. And I think that's something that we inherited from the way you had kind of set up the culture. And when we saw Ursula retire or Peg Brand retire or these various people, it's always been tough for us because they're such close friends. Luckily, we got John's still in town, so we get to see him. But I think that you really set up a foundation for collegiality and for a successful department in also, and I haven't mentioned teaching. I mean, we have phenomenal teachers in our department. And just, you know, to think of, for instance, Chris Kratz and Greg Keller, outstanding faculty members who, and along with the people I've already mentioned, who just carry the load and really do amazing work as teachers. So I think our connection with the students, I think our program, I think it's all got its start from you, and we're so grateful for your instrumental role in providing, in developing this program that we're all privileged to be a part of. So thank you.
Thanks, Tim. And I couldn't agree more with what you had to say about the philosophy department today. Not only are they among the top ranked philosophy departments in America in terms of scholarship, but our new dual degree advantage program has seen 10 double majors in philosophy just within the last couple of semesters join us. So it is great. Now, let me introduce now Dr. Ray Haberski, Director of the Institute for American Thought, who will say a few words about Paul and what he's done for American Studies. Ray?
It's remarkable what a builder you are. You and Catherine have given American Studies a tremendous boost here at IUPUI, and we are trying our best really to live up to your legacy. And I am so appreciative for your support, your counsel, and honestly, you know, for the inspiration that you gave the university over a number of years. I feel like in many ways I'm working hard to try to follow in your footsteps, and those are good footsteps to follow. But I have Abby Chambers here, who is going to be our first graduate out of the PhD program in American Studies. And I would like her just to tell you what she is up to, because you and Catherine made it possible for her to go to Copenhagen and work with somebody over there and to do the research that she is about to complete in her dissertation.
Thank you, Ray. Thanks, everybody, for having me today. It's really nice to be part of this event honoring Dr. Nagy. So yes, as Ray said, I'm getting ready to graduate with my PhD in the American Studies program. I've been researching economic development and neighborhood change for the last couple of years. I've done field work in the Riverside neighborhood on the near northwest side of Indianapolis in order to understand how residents perceive and are coping with change that is certainly coming to their side of town. In addition, I've also interviewed some city level practitioners. These are decision makers in our city who make the big decisions about where resources will be spent, what projects and initiatives and where those resources will go and how. And so I've been looking for ways in which what residents perceive happening is really different from the way that our practitioners see things happening. And my dissertation will describe how those disconnects actually help to perpetuate the social and economic issues that we continue to face generation after generation. And then at the end of it, of course, I try to offer some solutions. So it was, as Ray said, through the generous support of Dr. Nagy and Mrs. Nagy that I was able to go to Copenhagen to this conference called the Urban Challenges Conference. And I got to meet a couple of economic policy experts, and I've continued following those people, trying to stay in touch with them, kind of pestering them a little bit, and pushing back on some of the policies that one individual in particular thinks is really going to benefit some of our most disenfranchised populations. And the perspectives that I've heard from residents have informed my opinions on what will or will not help. And I'm of the mind that those perspectives need to be injected into all these decisions that get made about the places where these people live. So again, I'm grateful to be involved. I'm grateful to the Nagy for supporting me personally and the program. I know that so many students are off to do some really incredible things. So thank you again.
Thank you. And now, in honor of all that Dr. Paul Nagy has done for the Department of Philosophy, the American Studies Program, the School of Liberal Arts, and IUPUI, I am very honored to present the Indiana University Bicentennial Medal. The Bicentennial Medal, a special initiative of Indiana University's 200th anniversary, is awarded to organizations and individuals who, through their personal, professional, artistic, or philanthropic efforts, have broadened the reach of Indiana University around the state, the nation, and the world. Made of materials salvaged from bells that once rang out from the tower of the Francis Morgan Swain student building on the IU Bloomington campus, each Bicentennial Medal is a lasting piece of Indiana University history. Paul, I believe you should have the medal there with you. Typically, I would have presented this medal to you as I utter the following words. Since I'm not there with you right now, could you hold it up, or could you have Catherine please hold it up so that we can see it? Thank you. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the trustees of Indiana University, I am pleased and privileged to present this Bicentennial Medal on behalf of IU President Michael McRobbie and Chancellor Nasser Paydar to Dr. Paul Nagy. Congratulations. Paul, would you like to say a few words?
I would indeed. Thank you so much for thinking of me. This is one of the great honors of my life. The two most momentous events of my life have been my 55 years of life with Catherine next month. We'll celebrate our 55th anniversary. And my 53 years of life with IUPUI, the School of Liberal Arts, and Indiana University. These two events of my life go together. Yesterday, Catherine and I were just beginning to reminisce about our early years at the university. We came to Indiana on Labor Day weekend of 1967, Catherine went to work at Long Hospital in a surgical ward, was it? This was before the first phase of Indiana University Hospital was just beginning to be constructed. There was no campus. I went to work at the old downtown Indiana University Downtown Center, which was a collection of 4 old neglected buildings. One was called the A building. It was a 5 or 6 story former insurance company office building. And the second building was called the S building. It was the old Bob's Merrill publishing house around the corner on Michigan Street. The year that I arrived, 1967, we acquired the C building and the the M building. These buildings had no names; they just had letters. That was the beginning of the university. But we were filled with excitement. Really, it was what a wonderful way to start our newly married life and our new careers. One more point. In April of 2001, I gave the honors convocation, a personal reflection, and I pulled out my copy of the address here, I want to share just one part of it here because we were full of, Catherine and I were full of anticipation of a whole new life. We're starting out and moving from the East Coast, from the New York, Connecticut area. Well, anyway, in this address, 5 minutes, okay. I quoted Alfred North Whitehead, who during the war, the Second World War, said that let me just quote this here. Conversations with Whitehead by Lucian Price. And Price said, a while back you spoke of our Midwest, something to the effect that, and then Whitehead took up vigorously, interrupted him. And Whitehead said, my remark was that the only place I know where European man can still create civilization of the grand scale is in the American Midwest. Price, between the Appalachians and the Rockies, Whitehead, yes, roughly the Mississippi Basin. Price, why not the coastal regions, Atlantic and Pacific? And Whitehead's response was, they are rather transmitters of cultures and their cultures are likely to be more derivative. In the Midwest, climate, soil, food, those three preconditions to a flourishing civilization are favorable, unquote. So this is the sense of excitement, anticipation that Catherine and I had at the beginning of our life in Indiana 53 years ago. So I want to, again, to say how honored I am and how grateful I am that you would think of me in terms of this honor. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I know we're running short on time, but I have to ask, Catherine, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Wow, it's been a journey, honestly. We've had a wonderful life in Indianapolis. We raised 4 adopted children that we wouldn't have anticipated doing at that time in the East Coast because we have a racially mixed family. And now they're thriving. And so there was so much that we could do in Indianapolis that we couldn't do in Connecticut, social constraints. So, and I had a wonderful career at IU Hospital with Larry Einhorn, working at the university, eventually becoming a nurse practitioner. We just had a wonderful life, and we're grateful for the opportunities that IUPUI provided for us, and we have always remembered it, and we try to remember it yearly with some kind of contribution.
Thank you so much for everything that both of you have contributed to Indiana University. And congratulations on receiving the Indiana University Bicentennial Medal. Thank you to John Tilley, Tim Lyons, and Ray Haberski for helping us to honor our special guest. And thanks to all of you for attending today's ceremony. I believe Ray Haberski and Liz Goodfell will stay on to talk more about the American Studies program, so please feel free to remain and chat. On behalf of the School of Liberal Arts, best wishes, be well, and goodbye for now.
Thank you.